Have you ever noticed how prevalent it is for people to wear a happiness mask? Almost as if it's a social requirement. This facade is particularly pronounced in today's era of social media and persuasive advertising, all suggesting that donning this mask is the key to genuine happiness. We often envy those with perfect smiles, even if deep down we feel that something is off with them. They always smile, and their life seems to be so perfect. But let's just take a closer look to this phenomenon. And the easiest way to do this is to observe yourself. Most likely you are doing this as well in certain situations, and you might as well realize that you are wearing this mask almost all the time. You know how fake it is, but try to convince yourself otherwise. Upon deep reflection, one may discover that the emotion we call happiness is essentially the ego's manufactured version of joy. There is a distinction between pure joy and happiness. You can observe pure joy when looking at a young child, as they embody the joy of simple, formless being, existing only in the present moment, the very place where a child naturally lives. The joy of divine presence radiates through them. The ego binds itself exclusively to the visible form, making us believe that we are nothing else but that. It pursues happiness solely through this perspective and wears the connection with our formless being. Instead of longing for happiness, recognize the joy of formlessness that is always present in every now moment. Realize that there is only the now, accessible at any time, and through this, you will access your formless being existing in the eternal presence, which is equal with pure joy. Joy transcends circumstances in the external world. But sadly, most adults find it challenging to experience the joy of being present due to the overshadowing influence of their ego consciousness. The ego keeps everyone entangled in the illusion of past and future, preventing a genuine connection with the only truth, being in the present, and the joy that emanates from it. The ego does not want you to access your true self, which is the joy of formless presence, because that would mean its own disappearance. Your ego wants to avoid this at all cost, so it promises happiness to trick you. The so-called happiness that we can only attain next year, next month, next week, tomorrow or later, once we finish or achieve certain things. In other words, never. Your ego is tied to tangible outcomes, totally rejecting the formless, joyful presence within. And it does this rejection through veiling our real consciousness, that is the formless, joyful presence. Our true essence, accessible in any moment, often gets hidden by our ego consciousness. Our real self forgets itself through veiling its own self and goes so far as to completely identify with this ego veil. Looking from a higher perspective, the never-ending quest for false happiness is ultimately pointless. Even the ego itself, that is responsible for creating the illusion of happiness, that is always connected to the future only, is nothing else but a self-deceptive construct. It tricks us into living a false life, striving for something that lacks true substance. Your ego construct places joy in the future, labeling it as happiness. However, this future is non-existent. You can only experience your future in the present moment. Consequently, the future becomes an illusion, along with the anticipated happiness. The ego cunningly calls this anticipation happiness, deceiving you into believing in its reality, when in truth it is nothing more than an illusion. The key to pierce through the veil of ego consciousness and reconnect with your authentic essence is to anchor yourself in the present moment. Here in the now lies your true essence, the joyful presence. By fully immersing yourself in the divine now, simply known as the present moment reality, you immerse yourself entirely in the boundless joy of formless being that always resides within you. Return to the moment as much as you can. Immerse yourself in the limitless joy of the now. Surrender to the essence of your being. Interestingly, it's more challenging to distance yourself from the present moment than to remain within it. This may sound counterintuitive, but existing in the present moment is our inherent state. Do not mistake the different types of emotions of ego-driven consciousness with the joy that emanates naturally from within you. Joy is presence outside of time and is not attached to any condition. It is accessible anytime because it is part of you. On the other hand, emotions like fear, anxiety, and even positive emotions like happiness belong to the ego-driven consciousness. And all these are superficial, temporary, and part of the illusion. In the divine presence, you continue to encounter all emotions, yet you refrain from clinging to them, judging them, or seeking the ones your ego deems positive, or rejecting those that your ego labels as negative. Through this approach, you maintain a constant state of joy and presence. In the realm of God consciousness, also referred to as eternal presence or the joy of being, you will encounter happiness, sadness, and all emotions in between, yet without any resistance. The cessation of resistance signifies the end of suffering and the initiation of experiencing your true self, which is boundless joy. In this state, all emotions flow effortlessly through you, with a profound understanding that they are present to teach you valuable lessons. You embrace them as your best teachers, without allowing your ego to categorize them as negative or positive. Therefore, you no longer chase after positive emotions as substitutes for genuine joy of pure presence, nor do you fear the negative ones anymore. Resistance only perpetuates suffering, and true liberation occurs when you realize that your inherent nature is joyful presence. There is nothing to fear and nothing to chase. You simply exist in the blissful essence of your being. However, refrain from attempting to comprehend this with your ego-driven mind. You cannot reason your way out from egoic state. Rather, you must surrender to the divine presence. When your focus is entirely immersed in the present moment, being can be experienced, but it remains beyond mental comprehension. Rediscovering awareness in the boundless joy of presence is genuine, while the illusory promise of ego-driven consciousness is mere deception. Surrender to the omnipresence of the unmanifested within yourself, and you will find yourself immersed in the bliss of being. Everything will effortlessly flow through you as the experiences of the Source, liberating you from the fixation on particular outcomes you erroneously associate with happiness. Your joy will no longer depend on a future that is a mirage only.